Hey everybody, Mike from Michigan. This is my winter project for this year. It's a 12-foot cultimulcher. The price was right when I picked it up. It was a little too big for the trailer, so I ended up cutting it in half to make it fit. If you're not familiar with a cultimulcher, basically it's two 12-foot cultipackers with 2 rows of tines in the middle. But this one was in pretty rough shape, so it was missing one of the rows of tines and the bearings were bad. And some of the wheels were broke, but I'm hoping to get a couple good axles out of it, and it looks like there's about 70 good packer wheels in there, so we'll see what we can make with that this winter. So the place I get my used steel from has a plasma table, and I thought there's got to be an easier way to make the ends for these cultipackers. So I got out one of my old cultipacker wheels and a piece of cardboard, and I started laying it out. And this is pretty much what I came up with. And then I thought I'd put a bend on it, that way it would make it easier for the angle iron. I didn't know if they'd be able to bend it or if I'd have to weld that on there, but I brought this cardboard cutout to them, asked them what it would cost to make this out of 3/8 inch steel. The next day they called me back with a quote. I was surprised how inexpensive it was. I thought it'd be at least twice that with the steel figured in. And I had them go ahead and do it, and a day later I had these waiting for me. 3/8 inch steel with the bend, with the hole cut out for the bearing. So I asked them if they could cut the bolt holes for the bearings when they did the center hole on the plasma table, and they said because the metal was so thick and the holes were so small that they probably wouldn't turn out good. So I asked them if they could cut them close and I could just clean them up with a drill afterwards, thinking that would be easier. But they said once they run it through that plasma table with that high heat that it changes the metal and it makes it so hard that I probably wouldn't be able to drill it. So I am drilling all the holes myself. I did a couple already, didn't turn out too bad. By the time I get it all figured out, it takes me about 10 minutes to do the 4 holes. You can see on the bottom where that hole saw pushed through, left quite a lip on there, so I'll use a countersink one size larger than the 5/8 hole, and we'll clean those up a little bit. With that rounded corner, it's going to be hard to get a good weld in there and get it squared up nice. So So I took the grinder, took that edge off of there just a little bit. We can get a lot better seal in there. It'll be easier to weld, look a lot better too. Gonna get the tongue ready to weld. Got the end pieces all polished up, nice and clean. What I'm gonna do is line them right up on the edge of the table. That way they're even and everything's square. There we go. Now I'm ready to weld. Started welding today. Spent a few minutes getting everything clamped together and squared up. I'll tack it all in and then I'll check it for square again before I finish welding it. That's the second one. Got the first one done already. Went together pretty good. And I also got 2 of the hitches done. Spent a little time cleaning the welds up today. Hit it with the grinder to get the weld till it's just about level and then finish it up with a flap disc. Alright, we're getting closer on the 6-footer. Getting ready to put the tongue on. I decided to bolt it instead of weld it just to make it easier to move around, get it to the powder coater. Just the frame itself is probably close to 100 pounds now. I got all I can do to move that. So I just did the 2 in the frame with a hand drill with a hole saw. And then I did the 2 on the tongue and the drill press. And I made them 3/4 of an inch because I have 3/4 of an inch bolts that I got a really good deal on and I want to use up. And then that's it. I thought about doing some supports from the tongue to the sides, but it's so solid and it's only 6 foot that this is all it's going to need. Alright, getting ready to put the first 6-footer together. I got the frame all painted up, 19 Packer wheels on the axle. Once you got the wheels on, then you want to put the shaft collars on. They're not too expensive, I think $5 a piece I paid for these online. They just hold the wheels together. You want the wheels tight enough together so there's not a lot of space to them, but you still want them loose enough that they can each turn individually. Okay, I got both shaft collars on and tightened up. 3.5 inches of axle sticking out at each end, so we know that's centered. These can always be adjusted down the road too if it loosens up. Now that the frame's over the axle, the next thing to do is put the pillow block bearing in. One thing to look for is get one that floats. The bearing is actually the inside of the case, and this case will tilt. So when you're making something like this, if it's not perfectly square, the bearing will adjust to the axle in there and it won't bind up and burn your bearing out right away. Okay, I've got the bearing on. I'm going to go ahead and tighten the bolts up on it, but I'm going to leave the shaft collar loose. That way I can tap the axle from the other end with a sledge, bring it out this way if I need to adjust it once I have both of them on. Alright, the first 6-footer's done. We're together pretty good. Nice and solid. Okay, I got the last 2 frames back from the powder coater. They turned out really nice. Alright, I got the last 5-footer done. Went together good. And that powder coating sure looks nice. One thing I haven't mentioned before is you can get these little plastic end caps for about $1 a piece on Amazon. And then you can just pop those right in there like that. Keeps the dirt out and everything. And that's what it looks like complete. Well, that's the end of these videos. Thanks for watching, everyone.